The wind crawled across the Wyoming plains like a hungry ghost, scraping dry grass against the frozen ground as dusk smothered the last streaks of winter sunlight. Tom Riker, once a rancher, now a man with more memories than cattle, sat outside his quiet line shack staring at the empty ridge where his dog, Buck, had disappeared 2 days ago. Buck never wandered off. Buck never left him. Buck had been the last thing he trusted after losing his family in an accident that still haunted his sleep. Tom had spent 2 days tracking him, shouting his name into canyons that swallowed sound whole, searching through icy gullies, coyote dens, and patches of blood that weren't his dog's, but still knotted fear in his gut. By the second night of Buck's absence, Tom convinced himself he'd lost his friend for good. So when he stood outside his cabin on that grim third evening, pouring stale coffee into the snow, his heart nearly cracked when he heard a bark low, desperate, and familiar. The sound echoed once, twice, then Buck came, sprinting through the falling snow like a brown streak of life against the white world, tail wagging, ears flattened, eyes gleaming with purpose. But Buck wasn't alone. Behind him, limping, wrapped in a torn doeskin cloak and shivering under a flash-frozen sky, walked a woman tall, weather-worn, exhausted, her braids unraveled by the storm and her face marked with soot and fear. Tom froze. The woman's eyes were sharp but tired, her steps uncertain but proud. An Apache widow he knew by her clothing, her posture, her determination not to show pain even though she was clearly wounded. She leaned on a slender walking stick carved from juniper, and Buck circled her protectively as if he had adopted her on the spot. Tom lowered his cup and stepped forward slowly, hands away from his gun, heart racing with confusion. "Ma'am," he called softly. The woman blinked as though the word was unfamiliar. Then she collapsed into the snow. Tom rushed forward, catching her before her head struck the ice. She was burning with fever. Her breathing was thin and ragged, her hands trembling. Buck whined, pressing his muzzle against her shoulder. Tom carried her inside, laying her near the fire, wrapping her in blankets, melting snow for water. She murmured in Apache, the words raw with grief. Tom didn't understand, but her pain was universal and ached deeper than wounds. When she finally opened her eyes, she whispered her name, Nayeli. Her husband, she said in halting English, had been killed by a band of outlaws who attacked her small traveling party. She'd run into the wilderness to survive but became lost, injured, and unable to find her way back to her people. Buck found her trapped under fallen branches, her ankle twisted, her strength failing. The dog tugged her sleeve, barked, and refused to abandon her. Tom stared at his dog with disbelief. "You went looking for help," he whispered. Buck thumped his tail once. Nayeli tried to sit up but winced with pain. Tom gently guided her back. "You're safe now," he said, and he meant it. He wasn't sure when the cabin had last held another soul besides him, but suddenly the loneliness he'd lived with for years felt interrupted, changed, and maybe it needed to be. Over the next hours, Tom cleaned her wounds, cooked warm broth, and kept the fire alive. He had never spoken much since his own tragedies, but something about this stranger, this strong-willed widow who had survived loss and wilderness, made him feel seen in ways he didn't expect. As the night deepened, Nayeli watched him quietly, studying the cowboy who refused payment, refused thanks, and simply helped because his heart told him to. "You are alone here," she said softly. Tom paused. "Have been for a long time. Pain makes caves," she whispered. "We live inside them too long." Her words struck something in him, something buried. By morning, the storm had passed, but neither of their storms had truly ended. Tom saw the tracks of riders near his ridge, fresh, sharp, dangerous. Nayeli recognized them immediately. The outlaws who slaughtered her people hadn't stopped hunting. Buck growled at the scent. Tom tightened his jaw. He wasn't going to abandon her to danger, not after what she'd survived, not after what Buck had done to bring her here. "You're staying here until you're strong," Tom said firmly. "And if trouble comes, it'll have to pass through me first." Nayeli frowned with worry. "They are many." Tom thumbed his rifle. "I'm enough." But as she rested, something else grew in the small, warm cabin, the unspoken awareness that their meeting wasn't just survival. It felt like fate, like two wounded spirits, drawn together by a loyal dog who refused to let loneliness win. And as Buck lay between them, tail slowly sweeping the wooden floor. The cabin no longer felt like a place for ghosts. It felt like the beginning of something new, something neither of them had expected but both desperately needed. Tom didn't dare say it, but he felt it in his chest like a spark waiting for breath. Naeli didn't say it either, but her eyes lingered on him longer each hour, softening with trust. Outside, danger crept closer. Inside, hope awakened. And Buck, brave, loyal, stubborn Buck, watched over them both like he understood exactly what destiny he'd brought home. At the end of the chapter, Tom looked into the fire, his voice low. "Naeli, we'll face whatever comes, together." And she whispered, "Yes, together." To the viewers watching this story, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more Wild West adventures only on Wild West Diaries. More chapters coming next. Stay tuned and don't miss the unfolding journey of Tom, Naeli, and the dog who changed everything.